Hey TechDweeb, I got this Android handheld, but I don't know how to set it up. Will you do it for me? Well, I could do that. Awesome, thanks. I mean to say, I could do that. Yeah, great. That's what I was hoping. I could do that, but sweet man, let me know when it's done. I could do that, but then you won't learn, so I'd rather show you how to do it yourself. Whoa, calm down, man. No need to get upset. I'm sorry. That was rude. I shouldn't have yelled. That's okay, and I understand. But could you just set it up for me anyways? Ah! Oh! Hey there, how's it going? I'm TechDweeb, welcome. Thanks for clicking on the video. Today, I'm going to show you how to set up your Android handheld in the exact same way that I have all my Android handhelds set up. I do it this way every single time. I've had so many people ask how I do it. I've made guides, but some parts were always kind of glossed over and some people got confused. So today, I'm going to show you exactly how I set these things up. It's actually very easy to do, and if you follow along step by step with this guide, you'll have a device that is identical to mine, and then you'll be as cool as me maybe. Probably not quite that cool actually. This is going to be a rare long video from me. I want this to be a complete thorough guide with no skip steps. It's going to be a little dry and a little boring, and I'm going to try not to waste your time with a bunch of nonsense. I would never do that sort of thing. Oh! By the end of this guide, this is what you'll have going. Your device will have ESDE set up as the main front end. You'll tap a button to turn it on and instantly be into your gaming stuff. ESDE is a complete front end now, so you can use this to launch extra stuff like your browser or YouTube or whatever. But mainly this is going to be your home screen for browsing and launching your games. Each system will have its own category with all the games listed. You can pick a game to launch it. Some games will launch in Retroarch. You'll have some easy and convenient Retroarch hotkeys, which will set up, and some other games will launch in standalone emulators, which will also set up, and I'll show you how to customize ESDE itself. We're literally going to do all of this set up from scratch, exactly how I use it, and it's not even going to cost you nothing. I spoil you. You know that? Let's go over what you need because you'll have to get some stuff and do a bit of prep work before we're ready to dive in. First mostly, you're going to need an Android Retro Handheld. Obviously, you can use any Android handheld for this process. Retroid, INEO, Amberlick, whatever, they all work more or less the same. Today I'm going to be showing you all of this on the RG Slide. I really like this handheld. I'm not going to show it to you today here, but check out my review link below if you want to learn more about this thing. This RG Slide was kindly sent to me by LITNXT. They sell this along with a ton of other handhelds. They're not sponsoring this video or anything. They just sent me this handheld and they're a good store that I recommend all the time, so I'm happy to give them a shout out. If you're interested in treating yourself to an RG Slide or pretty much any other handheld, there's a link in the thingy below. Also, you're gonna want an SD card. You don't need one. All of these Android doodads have internal storage, but I highly suggest that you go with an SD card because that leaves your internal storage free to install extra stuff like Android games or those video files you like to have on there. And then also, if you get another Android handheld someday, you can just move your SD card over to the new device and then you won't need to re-download your ROM files and BIOS files and scrape the box art again and all that stuff. Pick whichever size and brand of card you like. I'll link to the ones that I get in the thingy below. For a front end, we're using ESDE. That's Emulation Station Desktop Edition. This is not free. To get it, you're going to need to sign up to their Patreon, and it's like $6, I think. When you sign up, you're going to be able to download the latest APK file for the front end. However, you don't need to stay a subscriber. Even if you cancel your subscription, you'll still get updates for future versions via email. So sign up for that and download the APK. You will also want a Screenscraper account because we're going to be scraping our game art. You can sign up for Screenscraper on the website. It's free to sign up, and that will give you like 20,000 scrapes per day, I think. Each game will require multiple scrapes though. My method uses 6 scrapes per game, so if you have a massive game library, you can do that process over multiple days. However, if you want to pay, you can sign up for their Patreon for a few bucks and get way more scrapes. I'm a proud gold contributor because this is an amazing project that I want to support. for the rest of my life, really. And of course, because this is an emulation handheld, I'm not allowed to tell you where to get stuff that may or may not be illegal. I'm talking about ROMs and BIOS files. I can't tell you how to use Google to find that stuff, how to open Google and type something like ROMs and BIOS megathread, as if that would just solve all your problems. It's not something I can do, so you're on your own there. I'll just assume that you somehow found all that stuff on your own. The emulators that we're going to be using will be downloaded individually. I will have links for all of these in the thingy below. You will need Retroarch for most older stuff. You can download the Retroarch APK from their website. You'll also need Dolphin for Gamecube. On the Dolphin website, click download and then go to the top one in the list and click the Android download button. You'll also need NetherSX2 for PS2, which you can get through the NetherSX2 GitHub. There you'll need to scroll down to find the releases section, and then you can click the latest updates, and then you'll see the APK under assets at the bottom. APK files are Android applications, by the way. That's how you install Android apps. And you'll need PPSSPP for PSP, which is fun to say because you get to say PP. You can grab that from the PPSSPP website, and you'll need Azahar for 3DS. Although there are other options available too if you want to shop around. Head over to the GitHub and download the APK of the latest version. If you want that other secret console, again, there's options, but I prefer Sudachi because it doesn't require firmware, and I like the compatibility of Sudachi. You can grab Sudachi from their GitHub, or you can go with Eden instead. Your choice. You may also want to install Cemu for Wii U and Vita 3K for PS Vita. I don't personally bother with emulating those, so you're on your own there. Not hard to find out though. I'll link to a guide for each of those below if you want to get those up and running after this guide. And that's it. That's all the stuff you need. All the prep work, and if you're still with me, then congratulations. You're well on your way to amazing Android handheldness. Now all we need to do is the rest of the stuff. So before we install, we need to make sure our device is ready to install. Some devices are a blank slate, but some come pre-installed with emulators. And these are rarely good emulators, usually with like janky settings and presets. So that's why we're doing it from scratch ourselves. To start, we're going to delete all of the emulators off the device first. If you ever want to get this stuff back, you can factory reset your device, but trust me, doing it yourself is way better. There we go, no emulators or bullcrap installed, so now we're ready to install our own bullcrap. First things first, let's put our SD card in there. We'll need this so that our front end can make the folders for our games. Open the Files app and navigate to your Downloads folder, which is where the stuff that we downloaded is. And you're going to install each of these APK files. At first, it's going to ask you to give permission for files to install stuff. So go ahead and do that, and then click Install. Go through all these APKs and install each of them. And now you're going to see them all in your applications list, but before we touch any of the emulators, let's get the front end setup done first. Tap on ESDE to begin the setup. Go through the prompts and grant the permission if needed, and soon you're going to find yourself at a place where you can select the application data directory. By default, this will be on your device. If you aren't using an SD card, that's fine. You can leave it where it is. But if you're using an SD card, this is where you're going to need to navigate to your SD card. And on the root level of your SD card, you're going to make a new folder. Call it ESDE. Just like that. And then choose the folder with the button at the bottom. And next we're going to choose our games folder. Again, navigate to your SD card and create a directory called ROMs. Just like that, and choose that folder. Then it'll ask us if we want to make game directories. This is something that we do want to do. Since this is a fresh card, we're going to need this to know where to put our games. So let it do its thing, give it a minute, and then we're in ESDE. But then it's going to tell us that there's nothing. No games, no files, nothing to import. That's normal, just choose exit, and now you can eject your card because it's time to add our games. Take the SD card out of your doodad and shove it into your PC. On the root level of the SD card, you're going to see the two folders that we made, ESDE and ROMs. But let's actually create a few other new ones. We'll create one called BIOS for our BIOS files, and another one called Saves for our save games, and another one called States for our save states. So let's start off by adding our BIOS files. Open up the place where you have the BIOS files that you obtained somehow, and drop those in the BIOS directory that we made. You can also drop in your PS2 BIOS files in there and your switch, prod, and title keys if you're into that sort of thing. Now it's time to add our games. Open up the ROMs folder, and in here you'll see a ton of folders. Each of these folders represents a system. So SNES for Super Nintendo, GBA for Game Boy, GC for Gamecube. You can probably figure what these are, but if you ever get stuck, you can open each folder and there's a little file in there, and you can open that to tell you, it tells you what it is. Or you can open up the ESDE wiki to help you understand which system is which. It should be easy enough for you to figure out though. I believe in you. And now you need to add your games to each of these folders. Just drag and drop them in. You can just add a few games or add all the games. I don't care what you do. I'm not your mother. And if I was your mother, I'd tell you to subscribe to TechDweeb because he's a nice boy. For now, I'm just going to add a few games for each system just as a demonstration. But on my actual SD card, I have so many games. When that's done, you're done on your PC, so you can safely eject the card and take it back over to your handheld, shove it in the SD card hole, and we're ready to start setting everything up. Let's start with Retroarch because that's what's going to be used to emulate most stuff. So start up Retroarch and you're going to be asked to grant permission to the external storage. Go ahead and do that. After a few seconds, Retroarch will do a setup thing and then you'll be able to navigate the menus. I set up Retroarch the same way every time on every device. So let's go through everything that I do. Let's go to the settings and start with user interface. Under appearance, change the theme. I always try to match the theme to the vibe of the device. I'm feeling like this RG slide has a Material UI dark vibe to it. Next, head to on-screen notification and disable scale graphics automatically, and then go into widget scale override and set it down to like 0.75x. This will make the notification smaller. Now go to on-screen overlay and disable the overlay. We don't need that because we have physical controls. Go into file browser and at the bottom disable the built-in image viewer. Otherwise you won't be able to launch Pico 8 games for reasons. And then go back out and go to the input section and in port 1 controls, change analog to digital type to left analog. Now we need to bind our hotkeys, but first let's change bind hold to 0 so this process can go quicker. And while we're in here, let's just disable confirm quit. Now let's go to the hotkeys menu and you can set up your hotkeys however you want, but I'll show you what I do. One button needs to be the hotkey enable button. 9 times out of 10, I use the select button. Then I set a menu toggle combo just as a backup, that's L3 and R3. And then I set the A key as the menu toggle key. And then start for quit, R2 for fast forward, L2 for slow motion, up on the D-pad for volume up, down for volume down, L1 for load state, R1 for save state, right for next save state, left for previous save state, Y for screenshot, and that's it. That's all I set. I do it that way every time. There's one more setting in input, this input block timeout. Set that to 1 if you're on an Android device. Otherwise, it makes it hard to do dual input combos in fighting games. Don't ask why, just set it. Now down to saving settings, and we're going to enable auto save state and auto load state and increment save states automatically. Moving along to achievements, if you have a Retro Achievements account, you can put that info in here and make sure you turn off hardcore mode, otherwise your save states won't work. Now back out to settings and into directory. And we're gonna choose a custom BIOS directory, and in here just select parent directory until you can see your SD card in the list. It'll usually be 8 numbers with a dash in the middle. And in there, navigate to the BIOS directory, which is the one that we made, and then select use this directory. We're gonna do the same thing for save files. Navigate your SD card and select the saves directory that we made. Same thing for save states. Find the states directory we made on the SD card. This is key because this will let you move this SD card between devices and take your save states and your save games and your BIOS files with you. That's it for settings, so now we just need to download our emulation cores. Back out to the main menu and go to Online Updater, Core Downloader, and you'll see a bunch of cores here. You can download just the cores you need, but I take a scorched earth approach and just download every frickin' core because I can't be bothered to pick and choose. It only takes a minute to go through the list. When you're done, just give a quick scroll through the cores to double check that you didn't miss any. There's always a few stragglers that I missed. When that's done, you're probably going to see at the bottom there's a few stuck downloads for the arcade systems. Don't worry about that. You actually do have them, it's just that the notification gets stuck. You can back out to the main menu and exit Retroarch with the bottom option, and that's it. Retroarch is done. Nice. Let's keep this train going and move on to Dolphin next. As soon as you get into Dolphin, you'll need to tap this Add Games button so you can pick your games folder. Use the menu on the left and it'll be your SD card, and then the ROMs folder, and then the GC folder. GC for Gamecube, and then click Use this folder. You can also do the same for Wii. Tap on Wii at the top, and then navigate to the Wii folder in your ROMs directory of your SD card. Now click the cog up at the top to open the settings. Start with Config and then General, and in here at the bottom, enable save states, and then back out to the main settings, and then choose graphical settings. For video backend, I might change this to Vulkan depending on the device, but most of the time I'll just leave it on OpenGL. Shader compilation mode should be set to hybrid Uber shaders, and then enable compile shaders before starting, which will make the games take longer to load, but there won't be mid-game stutters this way. You can also change the aspect ratio to 16:9 if you're on a widescreen device. Now open the enhancements menu and pick the internal resolution that you want. Depending on the power and the resolution of your device, you may want 2x or 3x. I think 2x is perfect on the screen of this RG slide. And down at the bottom of this menu, you'll want to enable the widescreen hack if you have the aspect ratio set to 16:9. Now we just need to set our controls. Back out to the settings and go to GameCube input, click the cog beside GameCube controller 1, and now go through and set all of the controls. Set them how you want, but I try to match the layout of an actual GameCube controller. In this emulator, sometimes when you go to map the sticks, you're gonna get a weird dual input there. If that happens, just redo the mapping on that stick. These GameCube controls will also work for Wii. Obviously, the Wii has all sorts of different ways it can be controlled because of the motion controls and stuff, and I'm not going to go into how to set up each one, but the GameCube layout works fine for lots of games. So let's fire up a game. When the game launches, open the side menu by swiping in from the left or pressing back, and then go to Overlay Controls, Toggle Controls, and Toggle All to disable everything. Make sure everything's working, and then that's it. GameCube is done. Go ahead and close Dolphin. Next up is PS2. Launch NetherSX2, leave the preset on Optimized, and then click Import BIOS, and then navigate to your SD card and the BIOS directory. And in here is where we added those PS2 BIOS files. There's lots in here, but just scroll to the bottom and pick the second or third last one. If it shows that it's a USA BIOS, then you're good. Otherwise, just try another one until you find a USA BIOS. Click Next, and then under Game Directories, click the plus and navigate to your SD card and then the ROMs folder. And then find the PS2 folder in here and click Use this folder. Click Next, and then you're going to be in the Nether home screen. Click the hamburger menu at the top and go to Controller Settings, then Touchscreen, and change the touchscreen view to None. Then controller port 1 and select automatic mapping, pick your controller, and it should automatically set all the controls for you. You can always come back here and do it manually later if you need to. Now let's go back and open the settings again and go to graphics. And again, you can try Vulkan or OpenGL. I stick with OpenGL unless I need to change it. Also change the upscale multiplier to 2x native, which is perfect for this RG slide. And I didn't show it, but you can also enable the widescreen hack at the bottom of the graphics settings. Fire up a game to make sure it's working, and then you can shut down Nether because we're done with PS2. Next up, let's do PPSSPP. Fire that up and it'll ask you to create or choose a PSP folder. This is where you'll navigate to your SD card and the ROMs directory and then pick your PSP folder and select Use this folder. Now in this main screen, select your SD card and go to ROMs and PSP. Then you should see your games there. Let's go into the settings and set the rendering resolution. 3x PSP should be good on this device, and then under controls, disable the on-screen touch controls. Fire up a game to make sure that it's working, and if it does, then you're good, and you can exit PPSSPP. That's done too. Let's do Azahar next. Fire that up and then it'll ask you for some permissions. I usually skip those. Here we'll need to set 2 folders. Start with user data and then navigate to your SD card and ROMs and then the N3DS folder. And then tap Use this folder. Same thing with applications, which is your ROMs. I use the same folder for both, obviously. Once you're at the Azahar home screen, click the kebab menu up at the top and then go to settings and graphics and then set the internal resolution. You can try 3x and then go down to 2x if you need to, whatever, just pick something that seems right. I also ended up enabling Vulkan as the graphics API because it worked better. Now down to the gamepad settings, and here you just got to go through and set all the controls. Same controls as a 3DS, except when it comes to the extra stuff, I set the screen swap as L3 click and cycle layouts as R3 click. Now you can fire up a game. It might ask permission and you can grant that now if you want. Open the menu by swiping in from the left or pressing back and then select overlay controls and uncheck show controller overlay. If your performance isn't what you want, you can open the settings mid-game and adjust the resolution, and you can also install custom GPU drivers if your device supports them. My RG slide doesn't, so I couldn't show you that here today, but that's more of an advanced topic anyways that you can get into if you need to at some point. For now, 3DS is set up and ready to rock. Next up is Sudachi for that secret console. This one's pretty easy. Go through the setup and it'll ask you for your prod keys file, and we put that on the SD card in the BIOS directory. At least I did. Find prod keys in there. Same thing with title keys. Select that from the BIOS directory too. Now you need to pick your games folder, and that's on your SD card under ROMs and then switch. You can fire up your game to test it. Of course, you'll want to disable the overlay controls by picking toggle controls and toggling all of them. And yeah, that's pretty much it. This one's easy. The games load up and run great right away. That's all I had to do to get Switch running. I mean secret console. It's a secret. Definitely not Nintendo Switch. And that's all our emulators. So now that we have all those set up, it's time to complete the experience by setting up ESDE. While this is loading, you should probably click the subscribe button if you haven't yet, just in case you forget. When you get into ESDE, you're going to see that the on-screen touch controls are in your face. You can turn those off by opening settings with the start button and under the input device settings of the main menu. Just turn off the touch controls. You can browse your games, and let's fire up a Retroarch game to test it. Retroarch should start up and everything should work as expected. Your hotkeys should work, you can play the game, save and load your state, open the Retroarch menu, exit the game. Everything is perfect here for me. Let's go through and try a game from each system. We'll go with 3DS, which started up and uh-oh, it's running slow. And oh wow, look at that, it's actually running through Retroarch. That's not good. We want to use Azahar, so we'll need to change the default emulator here by opening the main menu. Head down to Other Settings, Alternate Emulators, and change N3DS to use standalone Azahar. You can also change Gamecube to Dolphin standalone, PS2 to Aether SX2, which will still boot your games in Nether SX2, and PSP to PPSSPP. So with our custom system set, let's try booting up our 3DS game again, and now it starts up in Azahar, just how we like it. And now you should try a Gamecube game and a PS2 game and a PSP game. Make sure they all load into their proper emulators, which they will if you did it right. However, when you try to start a Switch game, it's going to tell you that the Skyline emulator isn't installed, and there is no option to change it to Sudachi. You'll need to do a special extra thing for Switch. I usually don't bother. I don't usually do Switch emulation, and I don't mind starting up Sudachi on its own when I want to play Switch. But if you want it to work in ESDE, there is a special GitHub that can get you sorted, and it's linked below. Feel free to try each of your Retroarch systems just to make sure everything's working. Make sure you didn't miss any cores or whatever. Make sure auto-save and auto-load works. You can always open up your emulators individually later to fix anything you need to. And some emulation cores might require a bit of tinkering to get them the way you like them. For example, in DS, I prefer to have different screen layouts than the default, and I'll change those in the Retroarch core options. I'm not going to go deep on all that stuff for every system, but just know that you can tinker, and most stuff you change will be automatically saved when you quit Retroarch. If you need a hand with Retroarch stuff, check out this video that I made, link below, which is a complete newbie guide to how Retroarch works. That should get you sorted. At this point, everything is more or less up and running, so let's finish up by making ESDE look all pretty. Starting with a theme, head into the UI settings and then down to theme downloader, and in here are all sorts of themes you can pick from. But the word on the street is that the cool kids pick the TechDweeb theme. Install that by picking it and then back out to the UI settings and choose it from the theme list and back out to apply it. There you go, looking all TechDweebish. You are so cool right now. However, I feel like this black device would look better with the purple flavor of the theme, which you can change in the UI settings under theme color scheme. There we go, I really like that. However, our game lists are pretty boring. Let's get some artwork going. Open up the menu and choose Scraper. In here, go to account settings, and then the Screenscraper account that we made earlier, you're going to put that in there and also put in your password. And then down to content settings and pick what you want to scrape. I do game names, rating, other metadata, screenshots, box covers, and marquee images. No videos or manuals for me. Then go back and go down to other settings and pick the region that you want for the default so it doesn't change your game names on you. Then scrape these systems, and I suggest you pick just one system and start the scraping just to make sure it's working. I have just 11 Nintendo 64 games here, so I just let it do its thing. And when that's done, you should be able to see your game art there, including the logos and screenshots. And if it worked, you can go ahead and pick select all in the scraper and then just start the scraping. Depending on how many games you have, this may take a very long time. Just let it do its thing. When that's done, you can go through and marvel at your beautiful game library with screenshots, and all the games load up and work perfectly. All your hotkeys are working, auto save and auto load, every emulator. It's a glorious feeling. The final steps, the icing on the cake, the frosting on the taco, is to make it so that when you wake your device, you're instantly taken into Emulation Station. To do this, open your Android settings and then scroll down to Security and then Screen Lock and set that to None. So that way when you tap the button, you don't have to swipe the screen away. Now we're going to set ESDE as our home launcher. In the Android settings, go to Apps and then Default Apps, then Home App, and select ESDE. Now ESDE is our actual Android launcher. It'll always be running, just like a true dedicated retro handheld. However, you'll notice that you no longer have access to your Android apps. This can be handled through a new ESDE feature. Open the menu and down to Utilities and pick Game Importer, and then change the import system to Android apps. Leave everything else default and then choose Start at the bottom. And here you're going to get a list of everything on your device. So you're going to go through and select everything that is not a game or an emulator. All the apps like Google Chrome and Play Store, YouTube, whatever you want. Then select Import at the bottom. Now you can actually do this again, but this time pick emulators and go to Start again. And now you're going to go through and choose just the emulators. If you have Android games, you can do it again for games too. When that's done, go back and then you're going to see that you have some new menus. An Android apps menu where you can launch your apps from. No need to use a different launcher. You can do everything from ESDE, and you can also access the emulators themselves individually if you need to get in there and change settings or tinker without loading a game. So now when you turn on your device or wake up from sleep, you're instantly going to be in ESDE and you can start a game and be in your game in literal seconds. That's the best part about Android doodads right there. They're just so quick and snappy. It's actually an amazing way to use your retro handheld. This makes Android devices feel more like dedicated gaming devices rather than one-size-fits-all mini computer phone things or whatever. This is the fun way to do it, and that's why I do it this way. And wow, that was a long one. This might be my longest video yet. I skipped no steps here. This is exactly how I set up my devices. So you have no excuse not to have an amazing Android device. All set up my way, which is the best way. Thank you so much, LITNXT, for providing this RG slide so I could make this video. There's a link to their store below if you want to pick one up. And if you have any questions on this or any of the process, stop by my Discord server, linked below. There's a lot of cool dweebs in there who can probably help you out, including yours truly. And if you found this guide helpful and you want to help me out, then consider becoming a supporter on Patreon. It helps me keep the lights on and the root beer flowing, so thanks for considering that if you do. As for me, my throat is parched and I have an ice cold root beer calling my name. TechDweeb! I'm coming! I'm TechDweeb, thanks for watching, bye-bye!